She found the engagement ring in his glove compartment. Not on his finger, not in a velvet box on his nightstand. In the glove compartment of his Mercedes, tucked under a stack of fake passports. And the name on those passports wasn't David's. It wasn't even close. Elena Rodriguez had everything. A tech empire worth $3 billion, a penthouse in Los Angeles that touched the clouds, a fiancé who looked perfect in every photograph. But at 2:47 a.m., on a dead stretch of highway outside Barstow, California, she had nothing but a blown engine and a cell phone with no signal. And now, this ring. This terrible, beautiful ring that was supposed to be hers. The desert wind howled through her broken window. She'd been driving for hours, fleeing a board meeting that felt like a setup. Her business partner, Sarah, had been too quiet. Her CFO had avoided eye contact. And David had texted her safe travels with a kiss emoji, but his location showed him at a restaurant in Malibu. Not waiting for her, not worried. That's when she saw the lights. A small garage glowing like a miracle in the darkness. Miguel's Auto Repair. The sign was hand-painted. The door was open. She walked in. And that's when the question that would change everything first whispered in her mind. What if the people you trust most are the ones holding the knife? Miguel was 23, maybe 24, grease under his fingernails, a Dodgers cap pulled low. He didn't look up from the engine he was fixing, just said, "We're closed." "My car broke down," Elena said. Her voice sounded strange, too soft, too vulnerable, 2 miles back. "Then you're lucky you made it here," he said, still not looking. "Lucky the coyotes didn't get you." She almost laughed, lucky right. She was a billionaire whose entire life was falling apart, standing in a garage that probably made less in a year than she spent on lunch. He finally glanced up. Dark eyes, direct, no flicker of recognition. To him, she wasn't Elena Rodriguez, CEO of Tech Venture. She was just a woman with a dead car and panic in her voice. "Pop the hood," he said. "I'll take a look." That simple human look. It cost her something right then. It cracked the armor she'd spent 10 years building. And she made a decision that would cost her everything. She decided to stay, not just in the garage, but in this moment, in this lie. Because for the first time in years, she wasn't a billionaire, she was just Elena. And Elena needed to know why the man she was supposed to marry had passports with names she didn't recognize. Let me tell you about Elena, not the magazine version, the real one. She grew up in East LA, same as Miguel. Her mom cleaned houses, her dad drove a bus. She learned code on a borrowed laptop that overheated if she used it too long. She built her first app at 16 to help her mom track her cleaning schedule. By 25, she was a millionaire. By 30, a billionaire. But here's her blind spot. She thinks people are basically good. She thinks money is a shield. She thinks if you work hard enough, trust the right people, and sign enough contracts, you're safe. She trusts Sarah because Sarah was her roommate in college. She trusts David because David looks like the man her mom always wanted her to marry. She trusts the system because the system made her rich. And now, in Miguel's garage, with the smell of oil and desert air, she's about to learn that the system doesn't just make people rich. It makes them disappear. Miguel worked in silence. His hands moved like they were born for this. Elena watched, leaning against the wall, her silk blouse sticking to her back. The desert had teeth even at night. "Your engine's shot," he said. "Needs a rebuild, 2 days, maybe 3. "I don't have 2 days. Everyone says that." He wiped his hands on a rag, "But the engine doesn't care." She pulled out her wallet, black leather, custom. "How much?" He named a figure, $1,200. She almost laughed again. That was her coffee budget for a week. "Done," she said, "but I need a place to stay." He looked at her then, really looked, at her designer shoes, at her perfect nails, at the fear she couldn't hide. "There's a motel down the road," he said slowly, "but you won't like it. Try me." That was her commitment, her point of no return, because right then her phone buzzed. Sarah's name, the text read, "Board meeting moved up. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Your presence required." She could have called a helicopter, could have hired a tow truck from LA, could have been in her penthouse by morning. Instead, she texted back, "Car trouble, stuck in Barstow. We'll call tomorrow," and turned her phone off. That decision cost her exactly $1.2 billion. Because while she slept in a motel that smelled like cigarettes and broken dreams, Sarah was signing papers that transferred Elena's voting shares to a shell corporation. Papers David had helped draft. The motel was called the Desert Rose. It was neither desert nor rose, just 12 rooms in a concrete line. Elena lay on sheets that felt like sandpaper and stared at a water stain on the ceiling. She thought about Miguel, about his hands. about the way he hadn't asked for her story. She thought about David, about the ring, about the passports. And for the first time in years, she let herself cry, not the pretty tears she cried at charity galas, the ugly kind. The kind that come from knowing you've been a fool. Before we go deeper into this desert night, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I'd love to know how far this story is traveling. And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button. These stories only work if we share them. Now, let's find out what Elena discovers when the sun comes up. Morning in Barstow is a different kind of hot. It doesn't warm you, it announces itself. By 8 a.m., Elena was sweating through her blouse. Miguel's garage was already open. He was under the hood of her car, but he wasn't alone. A girl sat on a stool nearby, maybe 12 years old, same dark eyes, his sister maybe. "This is my sister, Rosa," Miguel said, not looking up. "She's checking your oil." "I'm checking your life choices," Rosa said, her voice sharp and old. "You always pick the fancy ones." Elena blinked. "Fancy? Rich," Rosa said. "Broken, running from something." Miguel's shoulders tightened. "Rosa, go do your homework." She left, but not before giving Elena a look that said, "I see you. All of you." That was the beginning of the B story, the real one, because Rosa wasn't just Miguel's sister, she was his responsibility. Their mom was gone. Grandma was sick. Miguel had dropped out of engineering school to keep the garage open and Rosa fed. Elena saw it in the way he counted cash from the register, in the way he bought Rosa a Coke but drank water himself, in the way he looked at her car not as a job but as salvation. She offered to pay more, he refused. "I quoted you a price," he said. "That's the price." Integrity. She'd forgotten what it looked like day two. Elena stayed, she helped. She swept floors, she answered the phone. She learned the difference between a wrench and a ratchet. Miguel taught her without teaching, just showed, just did. They talked, or rather she talked, about code, about startups, about the loneliness of being the only woman in every room. He listened, really listened. She didn't tell him she was a billionaire, she couldn't. Because for the first time in years someone saw her, not her net worth, not her title, just her. But back in Lowe's Angels, Sarah was moving fast. The board meeting had happened. Elena was declared unfit to lead. David had voted against her. He'd produced documents, signed by Elena, he'd claimed, that gave him power of attorney. The documents were forged. But they were good forgeries. The news hit Twitter at 3:47 p.m. Elena Rodriguez out was trending. Elena didn't know. Her phone was still off that night. Miguel bought tacos from a truck down the road. They ate on the hood of a car he was fixing. The sky was endless. The stars were close enough to touch. "Why are you really here?" he asked, not accusing, just curious. "I told you," she said. "Car trouble. People like you don't stay in places like this for car trouble." "People like me?" He smiled. "Sad, running, always running." She wanted to tell him, wanted to say, "I'm not running, I'm fighting." But she didn't know what she was fighting for anymore, so she said nothing, just looked at the stars. And for the first time in years, she felt small. Not powerless, just human. Day 3, the car was almost ready, but Elena wasn't. She turned her phone on just for a second, just to check. 147 texts, 73 voicemails, all saying the same thing. "You're out, you're done, you're nothing." The last text was from David. "Don't fight this, you'll get a settlement, be smart." Be smart. As if she hadn't built an empire from nothing, as if she didn't know what smart looked like, she called her lawyer. He said the same thing. "Sign the papers, walk away, you can't win." She looked at Miguel, at Rosa, at the garage that smelled like oil and hope, and she made a choice. She wasn't walking away. She was walking toward something. Miguel finished the car, handed her the keys. "She's ready." Elena took them, her hands shook. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "Pay the bill," he said. "That's thanks enough." She wrote the check. $1,200, he looked at it, nodded, and then his phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face changed, closed off, cold. "Who is it?" Elena asked. He looked at her, really looked, and she saw something she'd never seen before, hate. "That was my grandmother's nursing home," he said, soft, too soft. "They found her, she's been moved to a private facility, paid up for a year, anonymous donor." Elena's heart stopped. That's good news, right?" "Is it?" He held up the check. "You think I can't see this account, this routing number? Tech venture. You're her, the woman who destroyed my mother's small business with your predatory pricing, the woman who put my father out of work." The world tilted, the garage spun. "What?" "Your company," he said. "Your algorithms. They undercut every small business in the valley. My mom's bookstore, gone. My dad's delivery service, gone. We lost everything, everything." He crumpled the check. "Take your money, take your car, and get out." Elena stood there. The words hit like bullets. Because they were true. She'd built her empire on efficiency, on disruption, on winning. She'd never asked who lost. "I didn't know," she whispered. "That's the problem," Miguel said. "You never do." He walked away. Left her standing in a garage that suddenly felt like a courtroom, and she was guilty. She got in her car, drove, not toward LA, not toward her empire, just drove, and when she stopped, she was at the edge of the desert, alone. Her phone buzzed, Sarah's name. The text read, "David's been arrested, forgery. Turns out he was working with your competitor. I tried to warn you, come back, we can fix this." But Elena knew the truth. Sarah hadn't tried to warn her. Sarah had set the whole thing up. The board meeting, the forged documents, the timing, all of it, because Sarah had been sleeping with David. And together they'd planned to sell the company and walk away with $500 million each. The only reason David was arrested. Sarah had thrown him under the bus to save herself. Elena sat in her car, the engine purred. Miguel had fixed it perfectly, but he'd broken something else. Her illusion, her armor, her belief that she was one of the good ones. She had nothing. No company, no fiancé, no partner, no friends. She had a car, a phone, and a truth so heavy she could barely breathe. She called Miguel, he didn't answer. She texted, "You're right about everything." "I'm sorry." No reply. She sat there until the sun set. Until the desert turned purple and cold. Until her phone died and she was truly, completely alone. That's when she saw the headlights. Not a Mercedes, not a tow truck, just an old pickup rattling down the highway. It stopped beside her. The window rolled down. Rosa, alone, 12 years old and driving. "Get in," she said. Elena blinked. "You're too young to drive. You're too rich to be sitting in the desert crying. Get in." She got in. The truck smelled like motor oil and bubble gum. "Where's Miguel?" Elena asked. "At the hospital. Grandma had a stroke. She's asking for you." "For me, she doesn't even know me." Rosa looked at her, that same direct look from the garage. "She knows everything. She always has." The hospital was small, one story, painted yellow, fading to white. Miguel sat in the waiting room, head in his hands. He looked up when Elena walked in. His face was stone. "She won't stop saying your name," he said. "Not her name." "Yours. How does she know my name?" "She saw your picture in the business section 6 months ago when your company announced the new pricing algorithm." The words landed like a punch, but there was something in his voice, not just anger. Confusion. "She said you tried to stop it," Miguel continued. "She said you fought the board, that you wanted to protect small businesses, but they voted you out." Elena's breath caught. How could she possibly know that? Because she was there. The room tilted again, but differently this time. "What?" "She was a cleaning lady at your headquarters for 15 years. She heard things, saw things. She knew Sarah was stealing. Knew David was lying. She wrote it all down." Miguel pulled out a notebook, small, leather, worn smooth by hands that had cleaned 1,000 offices. "She gave this to me last night after you left. She said, the woman in the desert isn't the devil. She's the one who tried to save us." Elena opened it. Pages and pages of notes, dates, times, conversations she'd never heard, Sarah and David planning, the board scheming, her own words twisted. And at the bottom, a note in shaky handwriting. "Elena Rodriguez is not our enemy, she is our only hope." The twist wasn't just that Sarah had set her up. It was that someone had been watching, someone invisible. Someone who knew the truth. Miguel's grandmother hadn't just been a cleaning lady. She'd been a witness, and she'd used her grandson's garage as a dead drop, a place to pass information to the one person who could take Sarah down. But Sarah had found out. That's why she'd paid for the grandmother's care, not to help, to control, to keep her quiet, and to make sure if Elena ever came to Barstow, she'd find an enemy, not an ally. "I thought you destroyed us," Miguel said, his voice breaking. "But you were trying to save us. And we destroyed you instead." Elena looked at the notebook, at the truth in those pages, at the woman who'd seen everything and said nothing, who'd cleaned up after monsters and kept their secrets, until now. The climax wasn't in a boardroom. It wasn't in a courtroom. It was in that yellow hospital hallway. Elena made a choice. The kind she never would have made in Act 1. She could have taken the notebook to the FBI, could have used it to get her company back, could have crushed Sarah with the full weight of the law. Instead, she handed it to Miguel. "You decide," she said. "It's your grandmother's story, your family's pain. You choose what happens next." He stared at her. "You'd give this up, your revenge. Your company, I already lost those things," she said. "What I want back is something else." "What?" "Integrity, the kind you showed me, the kind your grandmother showed me, the kind I forgot existed." Miguel made the call. "Not to the FBI. To a reporter, a small one, local, someone who couldn't be bought." The story broke the next day, not as a scandal. As a human story, the cleaning lady who'd seen too much. The billionaire who'd lost everything trying to do the right thing. The small-town mechanic who'd given her a second chance. Sarah was arrested, David too, but that wasn't the point. The point was what happened after. Elena didn't get her company back. The board gave it to someone else, someone safe. She could have fought, could have sued, could have won. She didn't. Instead, she used what was left of her money, what Sarah hadn't stolen, to start something new. A fund for small businesses, for people like Miguel's mom, for the ones who'd been crushed by the machine. She hired Miguel as her advisor, not because she felt guilty, because he was smarter than any MBA she'd ever met. He understood people, she understood systems. Together they built something that actually helped. Rosa went to college. Engineering. Full ride, she didn't need Elena's money, she earned it. And Miguel, he and Elena, they tried, they really did. They shared a porch in Barstow, they watched the desert stars, they talked about everything and nothing. But some wounds don't heal clean, some betrayals leave scars too deep for romance, so they loved each other differently. As partners, as friends, as two people who'd seen the worst in each other and chose to stay anyway. 1 year later, Elena stood in the garage. It had a new sign, Rodriguez and Santos Auto Repair, co-owned. She was sweeping the floor when a Mercedes pulled in. New model, shiny. The driver got out, young, nervous, rich. "Engine's making a noise," he said. Elena looked at him. At his perfect suit, at his perfect watch, at the fear in his eyes. "Pop the hood," she said. "I'll take a look." He looked surprised. "You?" "Me," she said, and she smiled, not the billionaire smile, the real one. "The engine doesn't care who you are. It just cares if you're willing to listen." She fixed his car, charged him fare. He drove away, confused but grateful. Miguel watched from the doorway. "You could have charged him triple, he wouldn't have noticed." "I noticed," she said. And that was the difference. That was the transformation. She wasn't a billionaire anymore, she was just Elena. And that was enough. If this story touched your heart, hit that subscribe button right now. Subscribe to Emotional Stories channel for more amazing, heartfelt stories that will make you cry, make you smile, and remind you what really matters. We post new powerful stories every day. Don't miss them, subscribe and turn on notifications. Thank you for watching, thank you for caring, and remember, always be kind. You never know who needs it, you never know who's watching.